together. Oh, you made me proud. You know how to work together already. That is a wonderful thing for a village. You know, a long time ago, there was a person who understood so well how things worked. They could put together the most beautiful patterns in the weavings. He could make cloth, and all the beautiful colors of the rainbow would fill that cloth, and people loved to look at it and to wear it. This same person could build a mighty, mighty house. Stand up right there. You guys, 1, 2, 3, stand up. Put those hands together. He could build a house so strong. Put those hands together, build that house strong. There you go. That the wind could blow and nothing would knock it down. The rain could fall and it would be strong and stand tall. Oh yeah, he could build a bridge. You guys stand up. Just face each other. Put your hands together. This way. They could build a bridge so strong. That mighty big elephants could cross over it and nothing would knock it down. It could be 500,000 bazillion elephants and it would stand. Well, that was what kind of person he was. And when he made the music, oh, front line stand up. Oh, they would clap together. They would sing together. They would move together. Oh, they looked so good. They loved it when he came. And he had a name. His name was Kwaku. Yes, it was Kwaku. Kwaku meant Wednesday. And everybody who was born on a day. And they had that as their first name. Like if you were born on Monday, that's the big time. If you were born on a Monday, your name, if you were a girl, would be Ajma. If you were born on a Monday and your name was a boy, your name would be Kojo. And so everybody had a day name, and his name was Kwaku. 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 Well, he was very special. His mother was the sky. Oh, I guess it was really his father, was the sky, Nayami. And his mother was the earth, Asasaya. And he had something so special in him. Everybody wanted to have his help, and when there was trouble, he would come and help them. He was so helpful in the village that people would bring him gifts. They brought him extra food when they had some. They brought him beautiful calabashes for storing things. They brought him their service. So sometimes if he needed something, there would be servants there who would just be happy to wait on him. They loved Kwaku. And in fact, in the village they would sing, everybody. Can you sing that for me? Everybody, everybody, everybody. Bring your calabash, bring your calabash, bring your calabash. It's my turn, then yours. You can still echo here. Bring your calabash, bring your calabash. Oh, for the monkey, chinyaba. Oh, for the monkey, chinyaba. Now, a calabash is a kind of gourd, and this one is actually shaped like a bowl, isn't it? This is a calabash. They grow on the ground. They're just vines, just like our pumpkins would grow. And they dry them, and they carve them out and dry them up good. And they would bring their bowls. So get your bowl. And there they might come, and they might make some peanut stew or some chicken stew or some black-eyed peas. And they would make a wonderful stew. They would eat that together when they were in the village. And the village also would have a big garden that everybody helped to keep strong. He's helping to hold the corn. Can you show me how you would hold the corn if you were helping in the village garden? Oh, that's good. Could you show me how you would dig in the ground? Oh, yes. Could you show me how you would water the new baby plants that would be growing? Yes, well, there was the time when people needed that village garden because their gardens were not doing so well. And so they decided they would have a new garden every year that people would help on. Well, that's what happened. Everything was going very well, and Kwaku had a big hut and a compound and a garden outside, and all of the villagers had their own gardens too, and there was the village garden as well. And the chief every day would get up and go and look around the village and make sure that everything was okay. And especially check out the garden to make sure that things were growing well. But because people had hoed, and they had dug, and they had watered, the things were growing very nicely. The chief was very happy. And she said, well done, my people. So, there was no problems at all in the village. None. Until one day, Greed walked in. Greed did not walk down the big road, not in the broad daylight. Greed lurked in the shadows and in the cracks. Greed slid along so nobody could see where he slipped in. And of course, Greed went to the most beautiful place there was in the village. He went to Kwaku's house and he slipped underneath Kwaku's bed. And he began to whisper to Kwaku as he was asleep. And he said, you don't have enough. You deserve more. And as Kwaku woke up that morning, Greed sprinkled something into his eyes. And when Kwaku opened up his eyes and he started to look around the village that day, everything looked different. He looked at the people who had been his friends, and he started to be suspicious of them. He started to think that they wanted what he had and they would take it from him. He started to think that he did not get enough respect. After all, wasn't he the one that everybody depended upon? Wasn't he the one who knew how to make things work well? Well, he should have it all. And he looked over at the village garden and he thought to himself, I will take that for my own. I deserved. You see, Greed had whispered in his ear, and Kwaku had changed in the night. Well, Kwaku waited until it was very dark, and then he called his servants to him. And Kwaku said, get the calabashes, the big ones, with the lid, and let's go. Now, I want you to scoot. And they snuck into the village garden. And then started to pick and pick and pick and pick. And they started to pull and pull and pull and pull. And they picked some of the corn and they put it in the calabash. And they picked some of the potatoes and they put them in the calabash. And they picked some of the beans and they picked and picked until their calabashes were full. And when they got them full, Kwaku brought them back. And when they got back, he had them hide all of that food in his compound. And they went to sleep. Well, the next morning, when the chief came out to see what was growing so beautifully in the garden, she got up and she looked out into the garden. And she said, oh And Kwaku came too. She said, what has happened? What has happened? This is terrible. We have had somebody steal from the people. What should we do? The chief was so upset. She was beside herself. She didn't know what to think. Well, Kwaku pretended like he knew nothing about it, that this is outrageous that someone should steal from us. Who could it be? Well, the chief had an idea, and she decided that she would set a guard in and around the garden. And so she picked 4 of her most trusted guardians, and they went to the edge of the garden. And there they were to watch all night long to see if anybody came. So she was very good at organizing them. And they started to march around that garden. And they marched, and they marched, and they marched until it was about midnight. They were doing a really good job marching. And then midnight came and they started to get a little slower. And they got a little slower. And their heads started to fall until they fell asleep. Oh, that's just what Kwaku was waiting for. He was waiting. The chief had gone back to bed and she was taking care of business. You come back up here. I will keep you up here. And Kwaku called out, come. Get your calabashes and let's go again. And so they got the calabashes and they went over to the garden, looking around. Hurry up. And they went in the garden and they started to pick. Get going. Hurry up. They pick. And you have to pick. And they dug. And they pull. And they filled those calabashes until they were full. And then they went back. Meantime, they were still sound asleep. Oh, they did not know what had happened. When the chief woke up, the first thing she thought about that morning was, how is the village garden doing? Oh, I hope they did well. And she went right up to see what had happened. And when she got there, she said, oh, no! She said, oh, no! And all of the guardians, they woke up. And they looked around. And oh, no! They all said, oh, no! They were ashamed. They had fallen asleep at their job. And so, the chief had to think of what she would do next. She thought, well, maybe if we added a couple more guards, maybe that would help. And she picked 2 more guards. And they were ready to work so hard. They were going to stay up all night. They had made up their mind. They were not going to let the village down. No way. And the elders, they were thinking, this is not a good thing. I wonder, did they find any footprints? They discussed among themselves. Who would do such a thing? Midnight came, and they watched. It was 1 o'clock, and they were still going strong. But come about 2:30, they got a lot slower. And their heads started to droop, and their shoulders, and their hips, and their knees, and their hands, till they stopped, and they all fell. Oh, that's just what Kwaku was waiting for. He was now going to get all of the rest of the vegetables for himself. And greed had told him that he deserved it. Get your calabash. And they picked and they pulled and and they dug until they were all full. They got everything The next morning, when the chief woke up, what did she see?
Oh no!
Oh no! Who would do such a thing? She went over to the garden, and all of the guards started to wake up. They saw what had happened, and they were so ashamed. The chief said, I think we must call on our spiritual guides. There's something so wrong with us. Hands down, we pick on quiet, smiling children. Yes, it's. We had one spiritual elder here, and another spiritual elder here, and another spiritual elder here. And they came out to the garden. Come. And when they went to the garden, they saw that there had been footprints. They decided that they should follow those footprints. And as they followed the footprints, do you know whose house they come to? Kwaku. They looked and they looked. But do you know? Kwaku. Kwaku knew they were coming. Kwaku's eyes started to clear up. And then he saw that night what he had done to the people who had cared for him so well. And he was ashamed. He was ashamed now that he had stolen from his own people, and he ran out into the forest to hide. The spiritual elders went all the way to the house. They found the servants. They found the food. And they ordered the servants to bring the food to the center of the garden, to the center of the town, so that they could have the feast together. But they said, we know we can follow Kwaku's trail. And so the spiritual elders moved out into the forest. And they followed Kwaku. Now Kwaku had gone deep into the woods. And he was trying to hide there. But the spiritual elders, just the spiritual elders, everybody else, sit down. Right here. The spiritual elders, sit. They kept following that trail out into the woods. And they called out, Kwaku!
Kwaku!
We know you are there.
We know you're there.
Come out and face us.
Come out and face us.
You have done a great wrong.
You have done a great wrong.
We will not allow you to live with us anymore.
We will not allow you to live with us anymore.
And Kwaku was ashamed. He knew now that what had talked in his ear was wrong. What had sprinkled in his eye had made him do bad things. And he wanted to disappear, but he couldn't. He tried to find the rafters of the house, and he climbed up into the rafters, and he pulled himself up, but he couldn't disappear. And then somehow his legs started to get longer and longer. And as he pulled himself up, he changed. And as he hid in the dust and the shadows of the rafters, he had turned into Anansi, the spider. Now, the elders knew what had happened. And they said, Kwaku, say, Kwaku, you are now Anansi.
You are now Anansi.
You are the spider.
You are the spider.
You will stay in the shadows.
You will stay in the shadow.
And you are not welcome to live among us again.
not going to live on among the Indians.
And Kwaku now was Kwaku and Anansi. They tell many tales about Kwaku and Anansi all over Africa, even in America and down in the southern parts of the Caribbean. You will hear these tales about Anansi, because Anansi sometimes is wise and helpful like a man, and he walks on two legs. But sometimes when he gets greedy and he forgets what is most important to the people, he becomes, can you take your arms? He becomes the spider. And so the tales of Kwaku and Anansi go all over the globe. In fact, they say every story belongs to Anansi.